The Chinese Communist Party's most important annual meetings, known simply as the Two Sessions, were held in Beijing on March 4th and 5th this year. When the meetings opened, the audience was surprised to find that Xi Jinping and other CCP leaders sitting in the front 2 rows in the middle of the podium weren't wearing masks, while the rest had to wear masks. Why did the large majority of the delegates have to wear masks? It probably had little to do with the actual state of the epidemic in China. The Communist Party's 2 sessions are the most important meetings of the year, with a total of about 3,000 participants, and are heavily guarded, as was the case in 2023 with closed-door meetings. During the conference, the streets of Beijing were monitored by police, armed police, public security, and cameras. Armed police stood in groups of 2, back-to-back, surrounded by a red cordon, with cameras filming. 3 groups of such images could be seen about every 100 meters. In certain subway exits, not only were there armed police with guns, but also police vehicles parked around. Police officers in both uniforms and undercover were present as well. In addition to armed police and public security officers, so-called volunteers with red armbands on their arms were scattered in groups along the streets of Beijing. Beijing's flyovers were also a place of high vigilance. The authorities recruited a large number of bridge watchers for a daily salary of hundreds of yuan.
It's my first time to have gone through a security check twice in Beijing.
First, check your ID card and take off your coat to check. Put my panda in. Take off shoes to check. Open the suitcase and check it carefully. Label my rechargeable battery. My eyebrow razor blade and alcohol swabs were taken away. Finally, entered the station smoothly. The Two Sessions is shorthand for the annual sessions of the National People's Congress, NPC, and the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC. These scenes suggest that there is little to no gesture of consultation between the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, and the people, let alone representation of the people. Protesting crowds aren't allowed in Tiananmen Square in front of the Great Hall of the People. Absolutely no. Petitioning is a form of recourse unique to the Chinese government. The State Council of China has a State Bureau of Letters and Visits to receive citizens who come to lodge complaints. Before the Two Sessions, governments at all levels increased their efforts to intercept petitioners so that they don't affect the government's image or cause trouble. One writer from Fujian province in southern China, who is also a petitioner, was intercepted at the starting point of her train station.
When I was at the entrance of the subway, 5 of them put up a human wall and refused to let me go down the stairs of the subway. The team leader rushed here, and they hired 5 hitmen.
Hello,
it's February 28th, 2023, and there are no more people at the entrance of the National Bureau of Letters and Visits. A few days ago, there were long lines of petitioners that lasted from late at night until dawn, and it took about 12 hours to get into the bureau. Now, there are no more petitioners at the gate, and you should know why. It's not that there are no more petitioners and no more unjust cases, but that the petitioners have been sent back. Now, at the entrance, is a large team of people who came to hijack the petitioners. This is my broadcast from the front.
Why was the security so tight? The CCP couldn't just say publicly that the people's representatives are afraid of the people, so the most decent reason would be to use the excuse of the epidemic in protecting public health and safety. That was why the Chinese Communist authorities needed to put on this epidemic-related scene for the Chinese audience. As such, these people's representatives and committee members had to wear masks. Why did the party and state leaders not have to wear masks? Did they have more immunity, or were they safer because they were seated a little further away from most of the delegates? The CCP's leaders, who have been living in privilege all their lives, may not even think of issues of this sort. The fact that they were the only ones out of more than 3,000 who didn't have to wear masks underscored their privileges. The two sessions were observed with great interest from all over, not because of any substantive new ideas or policies that would emerge from them. The National People's Congress, NPC, and the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, are known as rubber stamps and hand-raising machines. The CPPCC meetings are called vases. For most delegates, this kind of meeting is very boring and requires a certain amount of willpower to refrain from falling asleep. While these meetings are going on, they must manage their expressions as well. Despite this, observing the details of the two sessions gives one a glimpse of the direction of the increasingly closed Red regime and the dynamics and hidden agendas of the different factions within the CCP. These details, which were already revealed in the lead-up to the two sessions, suggest that the Communist Party is trying to lead the country towards a faster turn to the left, with their imagined goal being what appears to move into the Cultural Revolution era. In the CCP system, their lower-level officials undoubtedly know best what is on the minds of their superiors. Before the two sessions, Red allegiance ceremonies were held in various places. Look, here are the streets of a city in Jiangxi Province, the southern inland province of China, on March 4th. The students dressed as Red Guards during the Cultural Revolution danced the loyalty dance, characteristic of that era, to express their loyalty to the supreme leader. The official explanation was that March 5th every year was National Learning Lei Feng Day. Lei Feng was a role model chosen and set by the party for the public to learn from in the days of Mao Zedong. Local media sources said officials chose to let the Red Guards march in the streets because it was also the opening day of the People's Congress, the main event of the two sessions, and local officials tried to pay tribute to them. Correspondingly, the Communist Party's top brass and propaganda agencies also imitated, to a certain extent, the practices of the Mao era. In their reports on the two sessions on March 4th and 5th, the CCP mouthpieces Xinhua News Agency and China Central Television (CCTV) mentioned only Xi Jinping as one of the leaders attending the conference, phrasing it as Xi Jinping and other party and state leaders attended the conference. This is different from 5 years ago, when the names of the leaders who attended the meetings were at least mentioned. The atmosphere at Xi Jinping's appearance at the CPPCC meeting was becoming increasingly like that of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. All applauded as Xi Jinping entered, clapping in a rhythmic fashion. Some tried to signal humility by nodding their heads and fixing their gazes on Xi, given their limited facial expressions due to their masks. Yes, the entire crowd welcomed him. These details underscore Xi Jinping's unique position in CCP politics as the so-called the honored one with the highest authority, who is now supreme. Unlike previous years, this meeting featured the new appointments of government offices and the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, which changes every 5 years. since the 20th Communist Party Congress was held in mid-October last year. When Xi Jinping was confirmed for a third term as head of the Communist Party, it is about time to publicly announce the team of senior officials appointed by Xi Jinping at this year's two sessions. It seems not all of the new members of the Communist Party's top tier were feeling very pleased with themselves. On March 4th, the incumbent CPP-CC chairman, Wang Yang, delivered his final work report. Li Keqiang, the successor to the Chinese premier, made an appearance, looking apparently nervous with dull eyes. He is now arguably one of Xi Jinping's most trusted senior officials. Those who were about to leave the top of the Communist Party instead displayed a sense of relief that they could lie flat. Lie flat is a term popularized in 2021 in China, meaning to reject overwork and withdraw voluntarily from the relentless competition and pressure to achieve. Premier Li Keqiang and CPP-CC chairman Wang Yang are both representatives of the faction of the Communist Youth League. Neither of them was re-elected to the Standing Committee of the CCP's 20th National Congress in October last year, nor were they members of the Central Committee. After the two sessions, the two would fade out of the CCP political arena. Great achievements in the past strengthened our confidence in victory, and grand goals for the future inspire us to strive forward. Let us unite more closely around the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi at the core. Follow the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. Forge ahead with determination, hard work, and courage, and work tirelessly to build a modern socialist country in an all-around way and advance national rejuvenation on all fronts. There are two major factions within the CCP, the Xi faction, formed by Xi Jinping and his cronies, and the Jiang faction, formed by former party leader Jiang Zemin. Jiang Zemin was declared dead last November, but the rest of his gang remains. A third, weaker faction, originally in the same camp as Xi, is known as the Tuan faction or the Communist Youth League faction. At the 20th Communist Party Congress in October 2022, Vice Premier Hu Chunhua, once considered the star of the Tuan faction, was kicked out of the Politburo, retaining only his status as a member of the Central Committee. And the leader of the Tuan faction, former party leader Hu Jintao, was escorted from the closing session of the 20th Congress. At that time, when this scene was staged, it was regarded by the outside world that the Tuan faction among the CCP factions was wiped out. In the current sessions, Jiang's top executive, Wang Huning, replaced Wang Yang as the next CPP-CC chairman. On March 5th, outgoing Chinese Premier Li Keqiang delivered his final government work report. Video footage shows Li Keqiang speaking at a significantly faster pace and not reading the entire content from the script. The report lasted only 1 hour, which was much shorter than the previous report. Throughout this official report, the pessimism and severity of China's rapid economic decline were evident. First, the CCP has set its GDP growth target for this year at around 5%, the lowest level in more than 2 decades. The CCP previously implemented a harsh 3-year zero-COVID policy that hit the economy hard, reaching a low point in recent decades. After the removal of strict preventative measures, China still faces both domestic and global economic challenges. The official figures, though retouched, have also revealed that the CCP is aware that the economic woes would be difficult to hide, so it has set a relatively low target of 5%. The main projected targets for development this year are as follows: GDP growth of around 5%, around 12 million new urban jobs, surveyed urban unemployment rate of around 5.5%. Second, Li Keqiang said the government was targeting about 12 million new jobs this year. Even according to this figure, it means that China is facing a crisis of high unemployment. 11 million college students will graduate in the summer of 2023. And these new jobs are barely enough for the college students who will graduate this year, so there is no way to place those who have graduated before and haven't found a job, so the unemployment problem will be very serious. Third, Li Keqiang mentioned stability 33 times in the government work report. The number of times stability was mentioned is 38% more than in 2022. Li Keqiang's emphasis included stabilizing prices, employment, and the supply chain. When stability was emphasized in this way, it usually means that the relevant areas would have already been very unstable. Domestically, the foundation for stable growth needs to be consolidated. Insufficient demand remains a pronounced problem, and the expectations of private investors and businesses are unstable. Micro, small, and medium enterprises and self-employed individuals face multiple difficulties in business and production operations. The task of maintaining employment stability is challenging. There are many risks and hidden dangers in the real estate market. The operating risks of some small and medium financial institutions have been exposed. There are still many institutional barriers hindering development. In Li Keqiang's government work report, the term reform and opening up, proposed by former Chinese Communist Party leader Deng Xiaoping, was mentioned only 3 times. It was a tie with that of 2022. Both were mentioned the least on such an occasion. The term was used 10 times in 2018. Combined with the rest of the meeting, it can be speculated that Xi would further centralize power and use a host of Communist Party officials loyal to him to manage the economy. China would move toward a somewhat planned economy with greater Communist Party penetration of the economy. These moves, other than suggesting a continuation of the CCP's leftward shift for the last decade, are presumably preparing for a possible conflict in the Taiwan Strait and against the United States. What's interesting is that Chinese Premier Li Keqiang stepped down from his post after making his report. As a person who will soon be fully retired from the CCP officialdom, Li Keqiang announced these depressing figures. The pressure won't be on him, but on Li Keqiang, who will take over the baton. Li Keqiang will face a situation where all 31 provinces and cities in the country are in deficit. Therefore, in the 2 sessions, we see the expression of Li Keqiang is not at ease most of the time. After the opening session of the NPC was over, Xi Jinping approached Li Keqiang and gave him a handshake, but he didn't look at Li squarely when shaking hands. He just put his hand out and immediately turned his face to the side, nodding to greet others. Li Keqiang has been the premier since March 2013, partnering with Xi Jinping for 10 years. The 10 years of cooperation is over like this in less than 10 seconds. This footage shows Li Keqiang bidding farewell to his state council staff. His words at the time showed that he is somewhat reluctant but relieved. He seems to be issuing a warning to Xi Jinping, saying that while a man's power can reach the top, there is still heaven above mankind. There is a saying, people are doing, heaven is watching. It seems that heaven is watching. These years, the State Council office has worked hard and solidly, making special contributions. You deserve to be rewarded. Look, the wind has now begun to blow. According to current information, after stepping down, Li Keqiang intends to teach at Peking University. The 2 sessions of the CCP are like a political party. Despite that these delegates belong to the class who have to wear masks during the 2 sessions, they are like emperors at the local level. This is what a citizen saw on the road as a CCP official went to Beijing for the 2 sessions. Police officers on motorcycles are opening the way for him, exhibiting how imposing the official or people's representative is. The 2 sessions also need business people to come out and put on a show. Under the current red system, many of those who have become rich have done so by colluding with the government. They have made enough money and therefore have to stage for the communist system when necessary. They are given some benefits and privileges by the party. However, in the turbulent political whirlwind, there is no guarantee that the glory and privileges granted to them by the party will last long. According to the most recent statistics from Huron Research Institute, among the delegates and members of this year's 2 sessions, 81 of them have personal wealth of over $1 billion, including 41 NPC delegates and 40 CPP-CC members, accounting for 1.4% and 1.8% of the total number of NPC delegates and CPP-CC members, respectively. Of these 81 delegates and members, 50 are retained members. The other 31 new delegates or members include the chairman of Xiaopeng Automobile and others, many of whom are from industries that are in the limelight, such as new energy vehicles, medicine, and artificial intelligence. The BBC compared the 2018 list and found that 47 entrepreneurs with personal wealth of more than $1 billion were not re-elected as delegates or members. What is relatively notable is the collective departure of several internet giants, including the heads of Tencent, NetEase, Baidu, and Jingdong. The founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, has never attended the 2 sessions. His highest political title stops at being a delegate to the Zhejiang Provincial People's Congress. Among real estate giants who are in the storm of debt faults, there have also been multiple exits. The Communist Party is taking on the .com and real estate industries to purge a group of people. This group of people will have to pay for the mistakes made by the CCP system. All in all, the 2023 sessions, as in previous years, are still red. But the red is increasingly revealing the heavy, depressing, and unsettling sense of the end of a dynasty.